Well, calls to address the delays at Canadian airports like Pearson once again echoed following another weekend of frustration. Reports on social media, one from a former NHL player, went viral, suggesting that several Air Canada flights were canceled on Sunday. That resulted in hundreds of people waiting in line to rebook flights with few employees to help. Mayor John Tory says he's spoken with Federal Transport Minister Omar Alghabra about ongoing delays for passengers at Pearson. He says he was looking for help from the federal government to improve service at the country's biggest travel hub.
The responsibility for fixing it rests with the Government of Canada and with the airport itself. And I think they have to get together, and I'm more than happy to be a part of that. I said to some of the people in Ottawa yesterday that if we had to find 25 people at City Hall to send down there and they could be trained to help out, we could find the 25 people or more. That's how strongly I feel about this needing to be fixed. And the Government of Canada has been a good partner, to this city on a number of fronts. But I think right now, Toronto needs some attention, and people will say, well, there goes the Mayor of Toronto once again saying his city needs attention. This is the economic engine of Canada.
Alghabra said yesterday that the federal government is doing everything it can to support the airport. Last week, the Greater Toronto Airports Authority called on Ottawa to remove on-arrival random COVID-19 testing and duplicate health checks. Robert Kokonis is the president and managing director of the airline consultancy firm AirTrav Inc., and he joins us live now via Skype. Good morning to you, Robert. Can these problems be pinned down to one problem, or is it a symphony of problems at work here?
For sure, it's a symphony of problems, Jen, and the risk we face here is that the delays we've been seeing for almost 65 days now at Pearson, unprecedented. We've had some problems at a few other global airports. Nothing quite matches Pearson. We're not even at the summer peak yet, so unless government takes fast action, it's going to get a lot worse, notwithstanding Mayor Tory's offer to lend a few bodies.
Now, Robert, a lot of the blame on this is sort of the COVID testing, screening, random testing, that sort of thing. Is that the first thing that needs to go in terms of, making things more efficient and move better at Pearson?
There's two issues. So inbound, outbound. Inbound coming through customs, absolutely. The ArriveCAN app, or random testing, all these measures have increased the per passenger processing time from, say, 40 seconds up to 4 minutes. And you've got, 15 aircraft arriving from Europe or the Caribbean within the space of an hour and a half. That's a real problem. So we need to address that. On the outbound of the security, going back to 2015, there was a report on changes to Canada's Transportation Act. It was tabled in Parliament in 2016. Every senior executive in Canada's aviation sector unanimously said CATSA, our Canadian Air Transport Screening Agency, is a disaster. Lack of accountability, lack of new technology, lack of training. And last summer already, the government knew, the airports knew that air travel this summer had a good chance of spiking and to get ready for it, and they didn't do that. And here's the mess we are in right now.
Yeah, so it seems like, as with healthcare, COVID-19 really exposed a crack in this system at the airport, especially when it comes to security. Robert, what do you think this does for passenger confidence and ultimately the travel industry here in Canada?
Our biggest fear is that Canada is going to start to lose tourists and other travelers to other airlines. For example, flying British Airways without a mask. Technically, you should if you're flying into Canada, but we know the stories if you're flying other non-Canadian carriers. Or if you have a choice on where you connect, maybe you're flying from Europe to Mexico and you've elected to connect via Toronto. Maybe instead you connect via Boston or New York. So it's taking a real hit, and just at a time when Canadians and other travelers were taking to the air again, and the airlines, of course, suffered immeasurably during the pandemic, we've had this hit. So not good news, and not to mention this fall, we're very concerned once we get past the summer peak, all these issues around, especially around fuel prices, massive impact on the airlines. So this couldn't have come at a worse time.
Yeah, and of course, potentially the fall is when we'll see more COVID cases, so who knows where we'll be in the cycle of that again, Robert. The other issue that we've spoken to other industry analysts and experts about is the communications issue between airlines and airports. Airlines telling the airports we're going to bring in X number of passengers at this certain time. Airports, be ready for this. It seems there's a sort of miscommunication there. How could that be improved, Robert?
No miscommunication. This is a total red herring issue. Look, at airlines have got spikes or waves or surges since the beginning of time. Air Canada is the country's largest carrier. Their number one hub is Pearson. WestJet, their second largest hub after Calgary is Toronto. You get a morning surge, a midday surge, a late afternoon surge. This is just background noise here. Here's the real reality. None of our airlines were built to sustain 65 straight days of chaos. And what this does, it causes staffing issues from your check-in agents to people that could potentially direct traffic in the customs concourse, pilots, cabin crew who go overtime on their maximum duty day because they've been stuck on aircraft. So the airlines were not built for this chaos. And that's another reason we've got to get a handle on this as soon as possible.
Okay, Robert Kokonis, president of Air Travel. Really appreciate the perspective you brought this morning. Thanks for being here on CP24 Breakfast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.